Hi, this is Betty with Beyond the Dalit, and today I want to talk about forgetting the past and letting go of what's behind us so that we can reach forward to the things that are ahead. That's Philippians 3:13. Um, there are times when we need to let go of the past. There's times when we need to just simply understand that, like it says in Isaiah 43:19, God says, I'm doing something new. It's already started. Don't you see it? Don't you recognize it? Sometimes we don't always recognize the new thing that God is doing. Um, and some things are not always that cut and dry. Well, that was over, and now there's this new thing beginning. But I've noticed something more recently with a few of the people that I've been talking to, kind of going through the same, not just the same things, similar things, in that they really feel compelled to make a shift of some kind. Um, just simply not just letting go of the past. So let me, I'm going to share with you a little bit of what I've been doing, just the hands-on, tangible, practical, pragmatic things. But I want to talk about also the leading of the Spirit in this hour. And I think it's important because we are coming into the last month of this Hebraic year. And there's usually some kind of a shift um, when, or at least going into the new year. So we're ending 5784. We're going into 5785. I believe the new year begins, I want to say October 6th this year. Okay, so having said all that, the conversations that have been coming up with the people around me have been, like I said, very similar in that we all seem to be processing things that are bringing us to a place of decision. And those decisions are pretty clear. Or I should say, the results of those decisions have made the path pretty clear. Um, it's, for instance, okay, what's been going on for me is I come from a very dysfunctional family. Um, and I've had been away for a number of years. And recently I returned back to, um, I'm from the Chicago area. I returned to the suburbs here, and since I've been back, because I had been away, I had been reconnecting with my family, um, and for better or worse. Like I said, very, very, very dysfunctional family in a lot of ways. We have certain family members, and I won't go into all the details of that, but just suffice to say that that some of them have pretty severe addictions, things like that, that because of that causes not just minor disruptions, but pretty serious destructive behavior that is hurtful um, to the people around them. And coming from coming out of codependency, which I got into recovery for codependency about almost 35 years ago now. So I've been walking that out. And, and there's times, I mean, I feel like I'm at a place where I could make a choice whether I want to spend time with you or not, or how I want to do that. So it's not usually if, it's how. So I have very clear boundaries in my life. And one of those boundaries is, if you want to spend time with me, if you want to, if you have a desire to spend time with me, you're going to have to be sober when we do that. Okay. Um, I'm not going to go into why I made that decision, but that's my decision. And I have a lifetime of reasons behind that that are not, they're personal, they're mine. I get to make those decisions because they're my decisions for my life. I don't impose that on others. I don't expect you to live the way I live. But if you want to spend time with me, I'm not going to hang around. If if you're drunk, falling down, I mean, if you're in an extremely impaired state, I'm not going to hang around. That's my preference. I love you, but I'm not going to take on your responsibilities. I'm not going to pay for your lifestyle, and I'm not going to hang around when it becomes disruptive, disturbing, and hurtful to me. I gave up a lot of my freedom of choice when I was younger, and I'm 65 years old at this point. Like I said, I've been doing this for 35 years. But there's times when, because I am further along in my recovery than someone who's just stepping into that pool and learning what all of that is about and all that, I have the ability to not move my boundaries, not change my boundaries, but to simply make a decision on how I'm going to involve myself with certain people because they're still very, let's say, aggressively active in their addiction. And I don't want to get sidetracked with that, but just suffice to say that there were a couple of incidences that came up recently that kind of prompted me to have to voice where those boundaries are at. I don't always have to do that. I'm not always in a position where I have to voice them. Um, so, but like I said, recently I was put in that position and I did. I voiced um, to the people that were involved. I voiced my opinions and my stand and just said, here's what you can expect from me going forward. And having had discussions with other people in my family who have made similar choices, we kind of all came to the conclusion that we don't want our family events ruined, holidays, things like that, by this kind of behavior. So it's been a matter of discussion because going forward from here, it's not just about being self-protective and oh my God, I can't be around that. It's my life is on a certain track. I have boundaries that I set for my own life. And if I want the life I want, then I have to set boundaries and limits to ensure that that actually happens. Okay. So um so having said all that, that just happened to coincide with something else that was happening for me. And it was just the stirring of the spirit that's been leading me to to go through things, just physical stuff um, that I have. I have a bunch of stuff in storage because when I left, I left this area to go take care of my parents who were in their final years, and when my dad and my stepmother were both gone, like I said, I returned to Illinois. It was necessary for me to put my stuff in storage while I was gone, and when I returned, the Lord led me um, to move in with my son. So I live with my son and daughter-in-law right now. And the Lord has been really showing me that I'm going to be going forward in a new way very soon. And and that I needed to go through the stuff that I had in my storage unit. I have a pretty big storage unit. Um, and the more I have, it's not like, oh, gee, it's not something I didn't think about. It's like, oh, well, did I need the Lord to lead me to do that? It's something that's just been kind of in me for months. I need to get over there. I need to go through this stuff. But we had some pretty major, we had a very, very busy summer. So just leave it there. I knew I had to wait so that I could just devote my time to going, because my desire was I want to go through everything that's in there. I not just want to, make sure I repack everything well and all of that, but I really wanted to go through this with the thought of, is that something, with every item that's in there, is that something I want or need going forward from here? And I'm not a minimalist, okay? But I'm also not a pack rat. So I fall very much in the middle, okay? I like to have things that are meaningful for me. So there are some things that are in there I have just simply because they're sentimental. But I'm also extremely pragmatic. So, you know, I'm not going to keep a ton of stuff I know I don't need just because when I left here, I had to hurriedly just basically throw everything in boxes, get it in the storage unit. There wasn't time for me to go through stuff. I thought, well, before I land on the other end, I'll go through it when the time comes. I didn't expect that to be 2 years later. So as I've been pondering on what the Lord has been really just stirring my soul with this, it's like I can't get away from it. It's like I can't not do this, and that's one of the things how I know, because I'm not a driven individual. Um, I'm I'm more disciplined than that. I can be driven on certain things, but I'm I've tempered my life is more tempered by the Spirit now than, let's say, it was when I was in my 20s and 30s. I'm also, like I said, 65 years old. I'm older. I do things differently than I did 30 years ago. Nevertheless, so I'm in this place where I'm having to evaluate, and that's kind of what this is about. I'm having to evaluate pretty much everything in my life. So not only am I having to evaluate relationships in that, what is my involvement going to be going forward for here? How am I going to regulate my involvement with destructive individuals? Or how am I not going to do that? And who are the people in my life where, um, after I've had some kind of involvement with them, I walk away feeling better. I walk away feeling more energized. It's a good experience. And what involvement do I have? What people are in my life that are just simply, they're drainers, and every single time I'm around them, I walk away feeling drained or depressed or whatever. And so I'm like I said, look, I'm evaluating everything. I'm taking that same approach or similar approach to the stuff very pragmatically in my storage unit. So I'm in there. The first day I go in there, I'm like, there's something in here that I think, it's like I really felt like, I'm like, the first thing I think I need to get rid of is my journals from the past. And that, I got to tell you, that was a struggle because um, I had to struggle with that before I took the action. I had to wrestle that down. And it's not like, that kind of makes it sound like I really didn't want to do it. I really felt like I needed to. And I've been walking with the Lord long enough to know when there's times I need to let something go, I'll let it go. But because of my relationship with the Lord, because of the intimacy that we share, um, he will often show me, or he'll speak to me in a way that communicates to me the why behind it, you know. And he said something to me very simple, and yet it was very, very profound. He said, all those journals you have in there is years of processing. It's the process that's brought you to now. But that's all over now. And you're going into a new season. You don't need those anymore. And he said something very interesting to me on the heels of that. He said, if you stop and think about it, you don't journal the same way you used to. I'm like, no, I don't. I know that I don't. Um, I don't. And you have to understand something. I've been journaling since I was able to write my ABCs. Okay, since I learned to read and write, I have kept a journal. So let's go with at least the last 55 years. Okay, the journals that I pulled out of my storage unit, I have bins of them. I pulled out of there. Some of them date back to the 1980s. Okay, now there are things in there that are words I got from the Lord, but most of it it's my process. That was how I processed my life, was through those journals. And I don't do that anymore. I don't have such a need to do that anymore. Um, it's not that I don't continue to journal. I'm still a journaler, very much so. But how I approach that is very different than it was before. So, having said that, um, I knew it's like, no, and as I was pulling this stuff together, I'm like, this represents the past. It represents everything that brought me to this place. And when we have those moments in our life, we tend to do one of two things. We either enshrine it or we burn it in effigy. So and I knew at that point, I'm like, I do not want to enshrine the past. I want to stand on top of it and walk out now. It's like this mountain of stuff represents how I got to where I'm at now. But now I'm going to go forward in a new way. And the reason I share that is because that's the word the Lord has been giving to me for others. And it's like there's a company of people that it's extremely important that you understand not just the crossroads that you're at, but you're on the pivot, you're on the threshold, you're getting ready to step into a new thing, a totally and completely new thing. You don't have a paradigm for it. You don't know what it is. There's no way you could know what it is because it isn't here yet. But it's coming, and it's coming very soon. So it's important for you to understand that the life you've been living, everything up until now, is what's brought you to this place. But now there's going to be a shift. And that shift is going to almost, I want to say, catapult you into something you've never known before. It's completely new. So, one of the things that happens when we're stepping into something new, or when we're faced with something new, we have a tendency to hold on to the old. The word I believe the Lord is giving me, not just for myself, but for others as well, is expressed through Philippians 3:13 and Isaiah 43:18 and 19. So Philippians 3:13, Paul is writing and he says, Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. Okay? We're forgetting what's behind. We're reaching for what is ahead. Isaiah 43:18 and 19, the Lord is saying, forget what happened in the past. Do not dwell on events from long ago. I'm going to do something new. It is already happening. Don't you recognize it? I will clear a way in the desert. I will make rivers on dry land. Now, here's the thing. Forgetting about the past isn't always easy. But again, there's been this process that the Lord has been bringing people through. And it's for the purpose of, or I should say, it's been for the purpose of bringing them to this place they're at now. So, what does this place, this space and time, what does this feel like? What does this look like? At times, it can be um, very, very emotionally challenging and charged with all sorts of emotion because for some of us our past has not been pretty. Um, for some of us our past has been, you know, sprinkled with things like trauma and abuse and things like that. And and some of us then we want to go, well, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, go ahead and say forget about the past, but I'm still carrying the wounds of that. My life was very wounded. There's people to blame here. There's too much. I can't let go. I can't forgive. I can't forget. I can't move past where I'm at. I'm stuck where I'm at in the midst of that. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I don't want to stay focused on that for right now because what I believe, what the Lord is showing me, is that basically there's two groups of people, and I've shared this in some of the posts, more recent posts. There's two groups of people that I see going forward in this new Hebraic year. We're about to step onto either a bridge or into a tunnel. Both places are a place of incredible grace. Um, I want to talk about the tunnel first. So, stepping into the tunnel is for those people that are going into a tunnel type of season. What you have to know and understand is that the tunnel is what I'm seeing in the spirit is like when a train when they have to do a train passage through a mountain or through a mountain range, where they have to go actually in and through, and there's a like a tube that runs through from one side to the other. Um, and and if I could kind of translate that imagery, this is for people who you have that mountain in front of you. It's been impassable your whole life. You've been trying and trying and trying to get over this thing or get around it or figure out a way to get through, and you haven't been able to, whatever that is. And I don't want to speculate. I don't want to even throw examples out there because there are just too many options. But it's been like a mountain. It's been something that has been impassable for you. And what the Lord is saying is, I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to create an opening. You don't have to climb this mountain. You don't have to try to figure out how to get around it. I'm going to burrow a hole through it, and I'm going to take you through this. Okay, there's a passageway that goes through this mountain. Now, in as you're going through that, it's going to be an extended season. So I'm going to say, realistically, I think it's going to be anywhere from like a 3 to 5 year period, probably closer to 5, where it's because when we're talking about walking through things, we want to wave the magic wand and have it over today, and that's not always how it is. So walking out life is progressive, and this is a progressive kind of thing. So this is a passageway of processing and going from victory to victory to victory. Okay, so it's going to be a time of facing and dealing with that mountain. And really, what I really want to convey here is that please keep in mind it's the Lord who's making the way. Okay. Again, it's, which goes back to that Isaiah 43:19, that God is clearing, the clearing the way in the desert. The mountain can also be equated to, let's say, a wilderness type of season, but I think it really more represents the wilderness that people have been living in. It's like, I think it's already a very dry and desolate place for people. It's something that has been basically sucking the life out of you. And you can't go forward, or haven't been able to go forward into the thing that's calling you to, or the desire of your heart and with God, because this has been there. And this process, it's going to be an extended process, but God's going to take you through it. And as you go through it, you need to understand God's the one who's making the way. He's the one who's clearing the path, but you're going to have to do some work. This is going to be a time for these people that are going into this tunnel season. This is going to be a time where you're going to have to deal with your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own will. So this is a time where God is going to be focusing on um, with your interrelationship with the Lord. So it's your internal life. Okay, it's not just your spiritual life, it's your whole life. So it's going to be more of a focus on the issues of the soul, being your mind, your will, and your emotions. So it's your thought life, your emotional well-being, your will when it comes down to it. Um, Again, I don't want to dwell on any one particular issue here, but that's what this going into this tunnel is going to be. Now, I don't want to equate this to, oh my God, this is going to be a horrible experience. There's going to be some challenges along the way, but you need to know God is making the way for you. And as long as you're entering that season, whether you like it or not. I'm just going to put it, that's as simple as I can make it. God's taking you into a season. For those that are going into this tunnel, you didn't get a choice necessarily because God loves you. This isn't punishment. This is time. Okay? So it's not about, well, if I'd have done it sooner, then I'd be in a different place. No, this isn't about, it's not about guilt tripping people. It's not about condemning anybody. This is 100%, this is about trying to bring comfort, consolation, and encouragement to those people who are going into this tunnel season, because this tunnel season is going to be a focus on your internal life, and you're not going to be able to get away from it. So why is God doing that? Because we are three-part beings. We are spirit, soul, and body. And some of us, especially in the spiritual world, we have our spirit man is very highly developed, where, we may be filled with the Spirit and we have all this, spiritual gifting and all of that, but our soul is a mess. And we need to have different areas of our soul. So God's healed, delivered, or whatever, but fashioned by the Spirit, because our soul needs to submit to Holy Spirit to the point where, regardless of our past, regardless of the former things, regardless of the trauma we've lived through, regardless of our families of origin, regardless of the hurtful things other people did to us or the hurtful things we did to someone else. See, this is going to be a time of great accountability. but it's going to start inside ourselves. So those that are going into this tunnel season are going into a time of probably the most accountability you've ever faced in your life. So um, just know if you're the one going into that season, it's because God has deemed you ready for that season. You can do this because the grace to go through it is provided. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. The grace to go through this is already there. God has already made provision for it. If He's taking you into the tunnel season, you only have grace to go through this tunnel season. You're not going to have the grace to avoid it. You're not going to have the grace to try to get out of it. You're going to be given the grace to go through it. What does that really mean? It means you're going to have the ability to face those things. You're going to have the ability to go through that mountain that you haven't been able to go through before. God is saying that thing you've never been able to get over, that thing you've never been able to get through, that thing you've never been able to really have victory over and through. God is saying, I'm giving you victory through this. There's some stuff you're going to have to walk through. And it's going to be a challenge. Yes, it's going to be a challenging time. Um, but there's grace for that. There's an ability that goes beyond your ability, because that ability is coming um, the from the God of all grace. That's how Peter referred to the Lord in 1 Peter 5:10. It's the God of all grace. It's the God of all grace who's called us to His eternal glory in Christ Jesus. So it's this God. It's this God who empowers us by His grace, who extends us His grace, who who paves the road ahead of us with nothing but grace. So this is an incredible season of great grace that is ahead of us. Now, the other group of people that I see, so that's the tunnel people. There are others who are crossing a bridge. Now, they're and I want to say this is pretty much simultaneously. So it's like you've got some that are going into a tunnel season, some that are going into a bridge season. Is one better than another? No. But the one thing I do want to try to convey here is the people who are going into this bridge season are coming out of an extended tunnel season. And their tunnel season hasn't been 3 to 5 years. It's been 10 to 20 years. They've been through that tunnel. They've already been through the processing through the mountain. They've already been through the process of having faced all those internal soulish issues. They've already been in that place, and they've been there for an extended period of time. Now, they already had their tunnel season. Those people are now going to step onto, or I should say, into a bridge season. This, for both groups, but especially for the group that's going into the tunnel, okay, you've already started that process. You've already been there, and I'm going to say for at least the last year, if not longer. You've already been on the path, and you're at the beginning part of going into that season, okay? Um, for the people who are going onto this bridge, they're coming out. They've already been through that. So that's the thing I really, really, really want to drive home here is nobody gets to miss that season. Okay? Nobody gets to miss the tunnel. So the people going onto this bridge, as it were, they're stepping into they're stepping into the next phase. The reason they're going to step onto this bridge now is because They have just emerged from their passing through the mountain. They've just come out of their tunnel season. And now they're getting ready to step into the thing that they are only able to step into because they went through their tunnel season first. So here's the good news. Here's the hope that I want to lay before the people going into this tunnel. You have to know that that's not the end of it. That's a process you're going to need to go through in order to step into the destiny call of God that's on your life. In order to step into the thing God has called you to, which is going to be deep in the desire of your own heart. So it's really, when it comes down to, it's really what you want to do, okay? Because there's this fire in you, there's this passion to do this thing. You want to go into that. You got to go through this tunnel first in order to get there. So back to my bridge, folks. So once you go through this tunnel season, this next phase for you is the bridge that connects you. It's a connecting place. You're connecting from one place to another. So you're coming out of this tunnel season and into the land the Lord is bringing you into. Okay? Whatever that is. You can call it the promised land. You can call it your destiny call of God. You can call it all the promises God's ever made to you. This is going to be a time of fulfillment. It's going to be a time of the word of the Lord coming to pass. But there's a bridge. There's something that connects you with the, from where you're at to where you're going. So I don't know how long that bridge is. I don't know. But there's a connection. And that connection is going to connect you. Okay, so that bridge is, once you step onto the bridge, it's going to only lead to that one place. So like any other bridge, it's connecting you from where you are to where you are going. It is just as important um, for the bridge people, I'll call them. It's just as important for the bridge people to remember what the Lord is saying right now. He's saying, forget the past. Forget what lies behind you. Forget the things that are behind you now. Okay. So it's like, because I'm starting to do something new. For the people who are going into the tunnel, the thing they have to do is they have to forget about the life that's brought them to the place that they've come from. Whatever that is, whatever has brought you to this place, that's what you're going to have to let go of in order to step into. It's what you're going to have to forget and leave behind in order to go into the tunnel. For the people going onto the bridge, they're going to have to let go of this last season of all of this intense internal dealings and the process God has brought you through in order to get you from there to here. Okay, the process of bringing you through the tunnel. So once you come out of the tunnel, you have to do the forget what lies behind thing again. Okay, so we're not now going to go and teach everything we just went through. No, forget about this. Forget about that. Those things all may have happened to you. That's all great and wonderful. It's brought you to today. But now we're going to go forward with something brand new. You don't know what that brand new thing is because it's not here where you're standing. If you picture yourself, for the bridge people, if you picture yourself standing at the foot of a bridge, once you step onto that bridge, you're now headed toward that one direction. Okay, you have to step away from where you've been. you have to be willing to let go of not only the past season of your life, but everything that brought you to that place. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the um, my message here is talking about how I felt like I needed to get rid of my journals from the past. I did a ton of journaling. I mean, I that was one of my ways of processing information, and it's interesting because I write like a banshee. I write every single day, pages and pages and pages and pages of stuff every single day. I'm finding I not only have to go through and just throw out those journals, I have to go through my computer because I have stuff saved everywhere. I have more notes and things like that from all the processing I've done, where my focus has been, all the things, all the different classes I've taught and the things I've gone through and all that. It's like my life is in there. And I'm like, I now have to go through my files as well and just get rid of stuff and go, you know what? I don't need this. I got to tell you, I have a tendency to hold on to all that stuff. Is it? Well, I may come back to that. And I have everything stored. I have everything organized and all that. And it's like, no, I need to get rid of it. I need to let it go. And in order to go forward and actually step onto the bridge that is in front of me, I have to let go of the processing that I've been through. And I don't know what the next season is going to look like for me. I don't know what challenges are ahead of me. I don't know. I can tell you a lot about the tunnel because I was in it for the last 20 some years. That I can tell you. What I can't tell you is what's in front of me. I got a glimpse because the Lord gave me a let's say a prophetic look. I got a look into um, what's coming. I'm not necessarily at liberty to share all of that right now. At some point I will, but not today. So, again, back to what is it that God is saying? It's whether you're going into a tunnel season and now you're going to start processing through and burrowing through this thing that has been preventing you from going forward. That process is going to take a while. For those who are coming out of that season and you've already been through that, you're getting ready to step onto a bridge, and that bridge is going to connect you with the place God is taking you. So just know that usually bridges are narrow and short. Even the longest bridge in the world is not your path, okay? Um, that's not the land, that's not the place of landing. That's not the place that God's taking you to. The bridge is simply the connection to where you're going. So, having said all that, um, you know, I was looking this morning at um, this might sound silly, but I was looking again at my values, my core values. Okay, um, and why I have. Okay, so there's a page on my website if you want to read more about it. But basically, it comes from um, 1 Corinthians 14, verse 3, and it's about the one who prophesies, speaks to people for um, strengthening, encouragement, and consolation. It's it's encouragement and edification and empathy, really, and it's conveying and expressing the heart of God. So, in order to build someone up, to encourage them in order to give them some kind of support or confidence or hope, or to bolster someone up through empathy, which is the ability to feel the distress of someone else and to comfort them. So it's not just to speak shallow words of comfort. It's to really express to other people not just words of comfort, but to actually try to emotionally identify. That's what empathy is you're actually feeling, you're not feeling sympathy, because sympathy is different. Sympathy involves understanding someone's emotions, but from your perspective. Empathy is actually understanding and feeling those emotions the way the other person feels them. It's from their perspective, not yours. So empathy is very different from sympathy. So it's not, I'm not interested in giving you sympathy, because here's my version of what sympathy is. If sympathy is looking at your situation or what you're going through from my perspective, then chances are my input for you is going to be based on how I see it, how I would live it, and you don't need that. Because more times than not, what that's going to convey to someone else is not going to be encouraging. It's not going to build them up. It's actually going to be more defeating for them, because now you're putting something in front of them that they're not able to do. Plain and simple. It's my perspective. I'm looking at your sympathy in your situation through my lens, through my perspective, and I can't identify with you that way. I'm not going to come with loving comfort. I'm not going to come with, I might think I am, but when it really comes down to it, it's, I'll give you an example. When I was younger, and I was trying to express condolences or comfort to someone who had just lost a loved one, you say some of the stupidest things. I mean, we do. When we've never gone through that kind of loss, we're at a loss. We don't know what to say, because I can't identify with that. Can I identify with loss? Yeah, I can. But from my perspective, it's like, oh, come on. It's been 6 months. You're still grieving. What's up with that? And I had people tell me that when I was in that situation, which totally changed how I approach people who are going through the loss of a loved one. And for me, it started when I lost my fiance, and we had only been together for realistically, it was only a week into this. We're sort of almost officially. It was we didn't even do the ring thing yet, So um, we were unofficially engaged for a week when he passed away suddenly, and it devastated my life in such a way that I had a very, very difficult time going through that. And my family, the people around me, they a lot of people didn't even know that we were headed in that direction. And because of that, then they just didn't understand. So from their perspective, I had a very close dear friend of mine who said to me one day, "Betty, you're so much bigger. You are so much bigger than your obsession with this individual." I went and I looked at her and I go, "Are you kidding me right now? I just lost the love of my life, and you're telling me there's so much more to life than this, and I'm letting grief and sorrow take my life from me?" I mean, she was not being very kind. She thought she was being helpful. She thought, and she said that. She goes, "Well, I didn't mean that." But that's the way you just said that. This is what you just said to me. Well, I thought it would help. Why on earth would you think that would help? And it was like, and this was someone who knew the loss of close family members. Okay. So it wasn't like she didn't have loss. She had lost her father. She'd even lost a brother. I'm like, where is not just where's your compassion, where's your empathy? Where's your empathy? Put yourself in my shoes and try to understand how I would feel in the midst of this. That's what empathy does. Empathy says you're in a situation, someone is experiencing something and they are the one in it. You're not. You're not in it. So how can you possibly understand that? Well, there are ways that you can, which I'm not going to get into right now. But my purpose for bringing all of this up is that I'm a firm believer in expressing the heart of God. Do I know how everyone should position themselves going into this tunnel season? Of course not. Of course not. But here's what I do know. I know that the Lord is saying you're at a point where you're going to have to forget about the things of the past. You're going to have to let go of the trauma. Not because and hear me well here. Hear me really good. I've lived through trauma. So I know what trauma is. But that doesn't mean I know what your trauma is. I know what my trauma is, and I know how it affected me. But everyone responds to trauma differently. But here's what I know is that there is healing and there is a way out of that trauma so that the trauma doesn't dictate your future. And maybe you're one of those people that the mountain that's been in front of you is the trauma of your past. I'm just never able to get over this. It was just so devastating. Um, that I just can't get over it. I understand. I understand what that's like. I might not understand your particular situation, but I do understand that sometimes these things are so hard to face, we just can't face them. Here's what I know the Lord is saying at this point in time. Holy Spirit is saying, take my hand. Jesus is standing there in front of you saying, take my hand. I'm going to walk you through this. I'm going to take you through this one step at a time. You hold on to my hand. We're going to turn our backs on what's been behind you. And we're now going to walk through. We're going to walk through this mountain together. We're going to walk through. We're going to tunnel through this. And I'm going to bring you out the other side. And just know, every time you get scared, squeeze my hand and I'll kiss your cheek. Every time you feel like you don't want to, like you're frozen and you can't take one more step, just know I still have your hand. I haven't let go of you. I'm going to walk you through this one step at a time. And the next thing you know, it's going to be getting easier. The first part of the tunnel is the hardest part. But once you'll get to a certain point where this isn't that hard anymore. It's actually easier to keep going than it is to go back. And you will get to that point where, oh, that was hard. Or you're facing something that in the past would have crippled you and would have had you running under the blankets. Now you're going to, if you excuse the expression, but now you're going to the mattresses. Now you're willing to do the struggle to go forward, where you may not have been willing to do that before. And you are going to make progress. You are going to keep going through it one step at a time. That's why this can't be a wave a magic wand, bada boom, bada bing, and it's over. Because you're going to be gaining ground in the area of your soul with every step you take. And every time you take a step, and every time you make a decision, and every time you move a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further through that tunnel. It's worth it. Having gone through that season, I can tell you it's worth it. It's worth allowing yourself to be held accountable. It's worth progressing through each step. It's worth the time it takes. It's it's worth the investment because you are the investment. This tunnel season is going to be a time of investing in yourself. It's not about denying the Lord and not going, okay, now it's all about me and I have to get selfish. For those of us who come from families where we have people who guilt trip us because we choose self care over allowing them to suck the life out of us, that's not selfishness. That's self care. Self care isn't just about, self care is different than, it's not self indulgence, it's self care. It's making sure I get a good night's sleep. Well, for me, in order to do that, I turn the ringer off on my phone when I go to bed. Now, can everyone do that? No. Should everyone do that? No. But that's a boundary I set. You want to talk to me? Leave me alone. That's what voicemail's for. That's what voicemail's for. You can text me, but you need to know I'm not going to respond to a text at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because I'm asleep. Why? Because I value my health. I value my life. And I'm going to protect my life by making sure I get enough rest. I'm also going to eat healthy. That's another area of self care. I am diabetic. If I don't do self care, I'm endangering my life. So, no, I'm not going to go out for just, excuse me, I'm not going to go out for dessert with you. I might go out. You want to go get coffee together? That's great. You want to go get lunch? Yeah, that's great. Let's go. I'm not going to indulge in things I know I shouldn't. I'm going to set that boundary and go, okay, I'm going to live. I'm going to choose to live within these parameters because it is my one way I take care of myself. You see, when I'm willing to throw my self-care under the bus, what that's really saying is my life is not worthwhile. My life is just as worthwhile as yours. Your life is just as worthwhile as mine. No one is more important than anyone else. And I think where our Christian church concepts have gotten off base a bit is especially verses like think of others as more highly than yourself. But what's not being said in all of this is, and I've gone through all of this, deny yourself and um, you know, um, I die daily and all of that. We've decided or she said, the church has decided what that means in other people's lives. Yet they don't get to do that. Holy Spirit gets to do that. The church doesn't. That other person who's sitting there examining and judging your life and wanting you to be a little mini imitation of them, no, they don't get to do that. You don't get to decide for me what my life looks like. You don't get to decide for me how I spend my money. You don't get to decide for me how I wear my hair. You don't get to decide for me the clothes I'm going to wear or the language I'm going to use or the job I'm going to take, or you don't get to decide any of those things for my life. And I don't get to decide them for you. I don't get to decide whether you marry that individual or not. I don't get to decide. You see, that's not freedom. Okay. Christ came to set us free, not to get us bound again to another set of rules. And unfortunately, and I'm going to use the term loosely, um, oftentimes the religious community, what they want to dictate is another set of rules. We don't live according to those rules. We live by the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus, which sets us free from the law of sin and death. So there's a lot of things that I believe this tunnel season is conducive for bringing us out of all of that. It's conducive to dealing with our mindsets and our paradigms. Why do we think the way we do? Why do we believe the things we believe? Why are we holding to a standard that's not our own? You know, there's a whole bunch that's in there, okay, that we can meet with great expectation because as we go through that tunnel season, I believe when we emerge from that tunnel season, we're going to come out with a greater self-image, greater self-esteem. That it's that having proper self-worth and self-esteem is not narcissistic. Okay? I'm not a narcissist because I think highly of myself, because I value my own life. No, that's normal. Normal is having a normal sense of self, not an average view of self. There's a difference between normal and average. If I'm in with a group of people who all have low self-esteem and poor self-image, the average is going to be low self-esteem and poor self-image. If I'm with a group of people who are narcissistic, the average is narcissism. Those are both extremes. So the normal is what's normal, what's healthy. And I believe God is bringing his people into a place of healthy soul, just as their spirit is prospering, their soul is prospering as well. Their internal inner man is prospering because they're being healed from trauma. They're walking through and out of the past, the things that have held them bound and have kept them from being able to step into whatever it is that God has called them to. And the desire for life and for living. So embrace this tunnel season ahead of you. If you're one of the tunnel people, all I can say is God bless you on your journey. The Lord just extend you incredible grace. Just know that he's with you every step of the way, and it is going to be an absolutely glorious season in that respect, because once you even get partway into this, you're going to know and understand, oh my God, this is right where I need to be. This is exactly where I need to be. And I never thought I'd be able to go through, to, to, to actually get through this mountain, but I am. And for the people who are about to step on this bridge, here's what I have to say. Hang on, because it's going to be an incredible journey. Um, is it going to be anything like the journey through the tunnel? Not at all. Um, why can I not express and give you insight into what's coming? Because I can't. But here's what I believe. I believe God's given you a glimpse, and I think you know what's coming. I think you know what's coming, and I think you know that God is now going to take you into the thing you needed to go through that mountain in order to get to here. And you're at a place now where you're going, yeah, I need to assess. What the heck was that all about? What brought me to this place? Well, I don't need to examine all that. We don't need to go, okay, let me just do an assessment on the tunnel we've just been through. No. What is God saying? Same thing. Forget the past. Forget about that. This is over now. This is over now. Does that mean that Holy Spirit isn't going to um, hold you accountable? Does it mean that you're never going to have to deal with soulish issues again? No, but now it should mean that you're at a place where you can do that in a healthy way, where the things of the past are no longer a hindrance to you. It's not the mountain in front of you, it's now the mountain behind you. And that's the place you've come to. This is now the mountain behind you. That life and the life before you faced that mountain are gone. It's over. That person, you even know you're not the person who went into that tunnel. You're not the person who was on that entered that mountain pass season. You're not that same person. You are coming out with a greater sense of expectation than you've ever had before. You're coming out with a knowing that you're getting ready to step into all the things God has said to you. You just don't know how that's going to happen. So why is God saying there's a bridge? Because he's saying, I'm now, here's what the bridge is. I can tell you what the bridge is, but I can't tell you what's on the other side of the bridge. Only you can do that. And only God can tell you. So it's what the bridge is the bridge is the thing that is now going to connect you with everything that God said was going to happen. I'm not going to tell you, oh, you're going to meet somebody and they're going to be the answer to everything. No, God is simply going to walk you across this bridge. So you're going to step into something, you're going to step onto something. There's going to be, whether it's an opportunity or some kind of connection, but you're now going to get linked with something and you're going to step into something that is ultimately going to bring about your destiny because you now have been connected to it. And that could be anything. So just know that we're at the point where we're about ready to step onto this bridge if you haven't already. So having said all that, thanks for hanging out with me today. Um, like I've said before, I'm not a soundbite kind of person. What you get from me is going to come with a lot of processing and a lot of description and a lot of going everywhere around the world here with everything. Um, so for those who have hung in for this last hour, thank you. Um, God bless you. Um, you know, I want to encourage you to visit the website, Beyond the Dalet, and Dalet is Dalet. So I'll just end with this. I just want to bless you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Again, this has been Betty with Beyond the Dalet. Shalom.